You may start at it.
Good morning po. Dok, nadarinig na po. So, yung topic ko is pesticide poisoning. Pyrethrin. So, pyrethrins are pesticides found naturally in some chrysanthemum flowers. They are used as insecticides and can be found in many domestic aerosol sprays such as bygone mortar.
Yung screen mo, ang slide. Still in the first slide.
They are used as insecticides and can be found in many domestic aerosol sprays such as bygone, mortane, and Hovex. Also in clay treatments available for dogs including spot-on treatment and can be very concentrated. So naturally occurring pyrethrins are rapidly degraded by light, therefore synthetic analogs known as pyrethroids were developed to improve stability. Pyrethroids intoxication are generally due to either the improper use or accidental ingestion of approved products. So cats are very sensitive to pyrethrins and pyrethroids because they are unable to metabolize these agents quickly and efficiently into their peculiar liver metabolism. So this is associated with glucuronidase deficiency in cats, the enzyme responsible for breaking down permethrin and other synthetic pyrethroids in the organism in a process called glucuronidation. As a consequence, permethrin remains much longer in its organism than in dogs or other mammals. Acute toxicity, LD50 in cats, dermal is 100 mg per kg. As a general rule, dogs, livestock, horses, and poultry tolerate permethrin and most synthetic pyrethroids very well since toxicity is about 1,000 times higher to insects and other arthropods than to mammals. But in case of sustained skin or inhalation exposure or after direct contact with open wounds, toxicity to mammals can be found. I have two types of pyrethroids. The pyrethroids are classified into two major groups based on their structure and toxicology. We have type 1 pyrethroid lacking a alpha-cyanosubstituent, example is permethrin. Type 2 with the cyanosubstituent, examples are pipermethrin and phenylalanine. So the addition of cyano group to the basic structure further enhances its insecticidal activity. So yung mechanism of action niya. So the mechanism of action of both pyrethrins and pyrethroids is the same. They act on the membrane of nerve cells, blocking the closure of the ion gates of the sodium channel during repolarization, which strongly disrupts the transmission of nerve impulses, causing spontaneous repolarization or yung repetitive firing or discharges. The clinical signs include the primary symptoms of intoxication with permethrin and other synthetic pyrethroids affect mainly the nervous and muscular systems. Most frequent symptoms are ataxia, hyperactivity. Yun nga, nagkakaroon ng hyperactivity dahil sa delayed closure ng sodium ions during the repolarization state, kaya merong repetitive firing or merong nag-generate, madaling nalalower kasi yung threshold wherein kailangan imit na membrane potential para mag-generate ng action potential. Tapos, meron ding tremor, paresthesia, exhaustion, hypersalivation, vomit, diarrhea, and urinary incontinence. So, diagnosis, clinical diagnosis, basically, nakabase sa signs and symptoms ng patient and sa mga history. Treatment, so management is largely supportive and symptomatic because there is no available antidote. Hospitalization, decontamination, muscle relaxant, and supportive care are indicated until no further symptoms are noted. So methocarbamol is a common first-line treatment choice for tremors associated with pyrethroid intoxication. Methocarbamol has been shown to block spinal polysynaptic reflexes, decrease nerve transmission in spinal and supraspinal polysynaptic pathways, and prolong the refractory period of muscle cells. Di ba yung refractory period naman is yung period wherein hindi pa pwedeng magkaroon ng action potential. Kasi ano to, inactivated yung sodium channels during that time.
Methocarbamol is actually a muscle relaxant.
Prevention, to prevent accidental exposure, read the directions for any product carefully before use. Be cautious about the number of different flea or tick products used on your dog, as many products are not designed to be used in combination with other products. If you have a flea infestation, call your veterinarian about proper and safe treatment for your pets and environment. So when choosing a topical flea and tick product, be sure to use a product that is appropriate for your dog's weight range. Do not use part of a large size dose or multiple smaller doses, as this may result in an overdose and increased chances of poisoning. Store all pyrethrin or pyrethroid products safely and out of reach of your pets. Never use an insecticide on a pet that is not intended to be used on animals, even if the concentration of insecticide is low. The carriers or other components may be harmful to animals. Keep your dog away from any areas, both indoor and outdoor, that have been treated with a pyrethrin or pyrethroid product until it has completely died. With any poisoning, rapid diagnosis and treatment is imperative. It is less dangerous to your pet and less expensive for you to treat daily. Next, we have ivermectin poisoning. Ivermectin is a semi-synthetic macrocyclic lactone belonging to ivermectin family with a wide range of antiparasitic activity. Intoxication has been well documented in the veterinary literature and usually result from overdose or improper administration of the product intended for large animals. Ivermectin toxicity has been reported in several species of animals, including dogs, cats, cattle, horses, pigs, frogs, and chihuahuas. Warning: dogs of some breeds do not tolerate ivermectin and other macrocyclic lactones or other drugs that can cross the blood-brain barrier, so they can suffer more or less serious adverse effects if treated at dose rates slightly higher than the recommended ones. Consequently, dosing must be as accurate as possible. This is the case for collies and related breeds which have a mutation in the NBR1 gene that affects the blood-brain barrier and makes it more permeable to such compounds than in dogs without this mutation. So, ito yung mga toxic.
Kasing na ate yan ha, pinakita mo ba? Oh, not only breeds of dogs, we also have other animals that are susceptible to ano, ivermectin poisoning. Tapos na natin yan with anthelmintics, hindi ba? What are those other? The muradier cat. Ano pa? Collie breed, syempre lahat ng related na breeds doon. Ano pa?
Aquatic dog.
Ha?
Yung breeds po ba ng dog dog? Dog.
Oo. Other animals pa. Siyempre lahat ng mga collies, border collies. Yan, meron din tayong Uray cattle.
Okay, yung sa dogs lang po yung search ko lang.
Oo, pero meron din ibang mga breeds. Meron din ibang species of animals that are susceptible to ano. So kung hindi mo alam sila, di hindi mo rin malalaman na bawal sa kanila ang pagmamasin. So ilagay mo din dyan. Nandun sa module ninyo yon. Sige.
So, yung sa toxic consumption sa dogs, yung sa taas yung walang MDR1 mutation. So, sa small breeds, yung toxic na ivermectin sa kanila is greater than 0.8 mg. Tapos yung sa MDR, may dogs with MDR1 mutation, greater than 0.04 mg. So small breed, greater than 9.9 mg. Tapos dogs with MDR1 mutation, greater than 0.5 mg. Sa medium size breed dogs is greater than 23 mg. Sa dogs with MDR1 mutation, greater than 1.1 mg. Sa large breed, greater than 37 mg. Sa dogs with MDR mutation, greater than 1.8 mg. Extra large, ganun siya. Basta mas konting dose ang toxic dun sa may MDR1 mutation since madaling ma-cross yung blood-brain barrier. Tapos sa cats naman, toxic sa kanila is 0.1, greater than 0.1 mg. Tapos sa large cats, greater than 1.4 mg. So, ito yung sa mechanism of action. So, yung sa normal, so Cl ions are passed through glutamate-gated ion channels. So, nerve impulse generated keep muscles innervated. So, dito sa may so, nagkakaroon ng increased activity yung GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So ivermectin binds to glutamate ion channels and increase cell membrane to permeability to chloride ions. So yung chloride ions is diba negatively charged, so ang magkakaroon ng hyperpolarization of nerve cells wherein magkakas ng paralysis kasi hindi makaka-generate ng nerve impulses or yung action potential. Yan yung mechanism of action. So clinical signs. So the symptoms of ivermectin poisoning are the consequences of an excessive concentration of the molecule in CNS and subsequent increased GABA activity. Ivermectin stimulates the release of GABA neurotransmitter in the presynaptic neurons and enhances its postsynaptic binding to its receptors. This increases the flow of chloride ions in the neurons, which causes hyperpolarization of the cell membranes. This on its turn disturbs normal nervous function and causes a general blockage of the stimulus mechanism in the CNS. So the resulting cerebral and cortical deficits include mainly ataxia or uncoordinated movements, hypermetria, excessive or disproportionate movements, disorientation, hyperesthesia, tremor, agriasis, recumbency, depression, blindness, and pain. So diagnosis, pain dun sa pain, which is physical based on signs and symptoms, saka yung history of exposure. So antidote and treatment of ivermectin intoxication. No antidote is available for ivermectin poisoning. So treatment consists of supportive and symptomatic measures. So most patients recover in 7 to 10 days, but recovery of comatose patients usually needs longer. So possible measure for dogs, administration of ito yung mga supportive measures, supplemental electrolytic Solutions: keeping the animals warm, frequent turning of recombinant patients, corneal protection with adequate ocular ointment, artificial feeding, mechanical respiration of severe breathing disturbance. If intoxication, ito yung mga possible measures, continuation. If intoxication followed oral administration, induced vomiting, gastric lavage, and charcoal administration are often indicated. In case of bradycardia, administration of glycopyrrolate is indicated. So glycopyrrolate is a muscarinic antagonist. It is preferred over atropine because it does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Next, yung physostigmine. It improves the condition of affected dogs very quickly, already 1 minute after injection of 1 mg. So it is a reversible acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, but it's not an ivermectin antidote and must not be the only measure for treating ivermectin intoxication. It is very daily physostigmine treatments accelerate recovery, but it is very useful to confirm diagnosis and helps encouraging dog owners to continue therapy of their intoxicated dogs. Recommended dose is 40 mcg per kg per day IV, administered every 12 hours. Warning: do not administer to dogs with only slight symptoms because it can enhance tremor and ataxia. To avoid bradycardia and other side effects, treatment with glycopyrrolate before physostigmine administration is not advisable. The piclotoxin, a GABA antagonist, has also been used for treating ivermectin intoxications. However, it causes severe side effects and it has a very narrow safety margin. So, next, yung intravenous lipid infusions. So it has been used in human medicine to treat bupivacaine intoxication, and they have been tried on ivermectin intoxicated dogs, but little is still known regarding their efficacy and safety. It is postulated that they help extracting the toxic compound from contaminated tissue. So in simplest terms, the lipid acts as a shuttle where the toxic chemical is distributed away from the target sites. The lipophilic drug or chemical dissolves in the lipid emulsion with accelerated removal of the toxic molecules from target tissues. Since the case for ivermectin toxicity in Pomeranian pup. So yung sa diagnosis, yung sa Pomeranian pup age 2 months weighing 1.5 kg having a history of depression, ataxia, incoordination, severe degree of jerky body movements and tremors, behavioral disturbances, off-red, absence of repetition, and urination. Stretching of neck and head, weakness, recumbency, and excessive salivation was the case. So the owner himself had accidentally given 5 neomectan mg tablets or to treat ectoparasites without consulting to any veterinarian. A clinical examination revealed mydriasis, tachycardia, hypothermia, retching, and difficulty in breathing with a respiration rate of 18 per minute. So diagnosis and treatment. On the basis of history and clinical signs, the case was diagnosed as ivermectin toxicity. As there is no any specific antidote for ivermectin toxicity, supportive and symptomatic treatments can be given. So the dog was treated with diazepam, anticonvulsant, followed by neostigmine, dexamethasone, dextral, normal saline, ito yung mga supportive treatments.
Sana ginawa nyo naman ang case report nyo nakahiwalay yung history, clinical signs, diagnosis nila, tapos treatment kasi hindi nababasa ang liliit. So, paano natin ma-appreciate? Kasi naglalagay tayo ng case report para ma-appreciate nyo na meron talagang cases na ganyan at tinitreat talaga siya. So, yun bang sa case report mo, ano yung ginamit nilang treatment?
Supportive doctor ko ng mga dextrose tapos may anticonvulsant to diazepam.
But ano ba yung mga clinical signs na nakita? Bakit may anticonvulsant?
May ano po doctor, jerky body movements po, tremors.
Supposedly, ang ivermectin poisoning ay ano No, hindi ako masyadong nagko-comment kasi tapos na natin i-discuss ang ivermectin as well as pyretrins sa ating sa ating pesticides. And ang importante lang na tatandaan ninyo with those is dapat ma-identify ninyo yung mga clinical signs and why does it occur, no? So yung mechanism of intoxication, which naman is usually related on how they act in the pesticides, no? That usually kung anong ginagamit natin kung para sa ticks, sa fleas, no? Ganun din yung kanilang magiging mechanism of intoxication. So since tapos na natin yan sa pesticides, dapat alam na ninyo ano yung i-expect ninyo ng mga clinical signs sa mga aso na malalaso ng ivermectin. At importante nga yung mga breeds, not only in dogs, meron din tayong iba pa sa cattle. So kailangan nakalagay doon yung inyong yung mga susceptible breeds. Okay. So thank you very much. At ipakiayos lang naman ng so that yung report is broken down into slides na nakikita. Tapos, I'd want kasi sana na when you say treatment, nakikita ko na agad kung ano yung mga, hindi siya in paragraph form that I have to read kung hanggang nasaan yung treatment. So, naka-list down ang mga clinical signs, naka-list down ang treatments, isasabihin kung para saan, and isasabihin kung ano yung mode of action, bakit mo siya gagamitin. Ayusin yung PowerPoint. Okay? And so I've read the reports that was given. So incomplete talaga siya. So I cannot let the reporters report yung kanilang since hindi siya kompleto. So I will use the time for the lecture on disinfectants. So that isang topic na lang tayo on Monday, which is the vitamins. So we'll have the whole time ng Thursday for the reports. So kailangan ko na ng maybe 4 na groups on Thursday. So kasama na yung ngayon, yung hindi nag-report ngayon. So there's other 3 groups for Thursday next week para mabilis tayo. And then since matatapos na natin and exam na lang the following week, we use the time for the lecture and the lab the following week for all the reports para matapos na. Then you'll have your exam. Okay? And then next week, I will also give a quiz on the lab para sa mga reports na wala pang quizzes. Particularly yung mga reports nila Palabay, and then the reports of Kabakungan. Alin pa yung mga wala tayong report. So, magpapapis din ako next week. So, as I mentioned, I'll be using this time for the lecture on disinfectants and antiseptics. So, I'll share my screen. Okay, so actually this is disinfectants and antiseptics. So often we use these disinfectants and antiseptics in, of course, veterinary practice. No? So why do we need them? So can you give an indication? Why do we need yung ating disinfectants and antiseptics in veterinary medicine? Can you name some of their applications? Ano natin ginagamit ang mga disinfectants at antiseptics?
For aseptic technique, Doc, sa mga surgical procedures.
Okay, so they're needed for, yun nga, pre-surgical, scrubs, as well as in disinfection, post-surgery. What else? Aside from sa surgery, syempre sa mga wounds, ginagamit din natin sila. What else? Gumagamit ba tayo pag may outbreak? Ngayong COVID-19, gumagamit ba kayo? Pag may ASF ba, gagamit ba?
Doc, to prevent growth of microorganism din po.
So basically, kasi yun ang ginagawa nila. No? So ibig sabihin, so kung to prevent growth of organism, so if you have some outbreaks, pag meron tayong mga outbreaks, so para hindi siya mag-spread, diba? Mag-spread yung ating infectious disease. It prevents the spread of your infectious diseases. So, kailangan natin silang gamitin. So, we define disinfection as the process of reducing the number of pathogens, but not usually of bacterial spores. So, ibig sabihin, we use the disinfectants in order to reduce the number of your microorganisms, but it cannot eliminate all when you talk about disinfection. So it does not necessarily kill or remove all organisms. Okay? And that will be different now with that of sterilization. So magkaiba ang disinfection sa sterilization. Kasi when you say sterilize or sterilization, you remove all the microorganisms. Ang disinfection kasi is it only reduce the number of pathogens. Hindi niya rin kaya yung ating bacterial spores. And yun nga, may matitira. But when you say sterilization, completely, 100%, wala. Okay? Maliwanag ba yung difference ng disinfection at saka sterilization?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, now I want you to take a look at the meaning of, or i-google ninyo ano yung meaning ng cleanser, antiseptic, disinfectant. What would be the difference between these three? So, antiseptic muna, and then disinfectant, and then cleanser. So, I'll give you ilan. Sige, tingnan ninyo. Write it down para maano ninyo. Okay, so let's see. Meron na? Nakita na ninyo? Okay, so I want Mr. Alsate to define disinfectant, and then Mr. Tatao for the antiseptic, and then Miss Garlito sa cleanser. Okay, Mr. Alsate.
Doc, yung disinfectant po, ginagamit ng mga surface mo ng non-living.
Na?
Like, sa mga tipo, gano'n.
Sa? Ano yung ano mo? Kodyo mo? Hindi ba linaw kasi?
Yung disinfectant po, useful po siya sa mga surface po ng non-living things po, like sa mga tables po, gano'n.
Okay, so give me a definition, kuya. Kasi alam mo na yung definition ng disinfection. So, i-complete mo na siya. When you are using disinfectant. O, di ba yan ang definition ng disinfection? So, kompletohin mo nga.
Destroy and kills bacteria po on the surface of non-living organisms or materials.
Tama ba yung definition niya? Anong narinig ko? Kills? Sige nga kuya, sige. Ulitin mo. Pinapahirapan kita, sige. Ano lang ang kailangan mong tandaan sa disinfectant? Non-living things siya ina-apply in order to reduce the number of pathogens, no? Without necessarily killing or removing all of the organisms. So, gagamitin mo siya sa non-living, sa table, sa floor, sa walls. Okay? So what about the antiseptic?
Dok, yung antiseptic po yung chemical agent na na pumapatay sa microorganism. Tapos ini-inhibit din po yung growth. Then para din kung sa disinfectant po para sa non-living, yung antiseptic po sa living organism po.
Okay, sa living organism o sa kamay mo, sa paa mo. So if you apply it to a living organism like iodine pang ano mo ng sugat, that would be antisepsis, no? Hindi siya disinfection. Okay, kasi you are putting it in a living organism. Okay? And 99.9% lang yan parate, hindi yan 100%. Okay? So, antiseptic is applied to living tissue, whereas yung disinfectant natin ay applied sa ating inanimate objects or non-living organisms. Maliwanag ba yung kaibahan ng dalawa?
Yes po, Doc.
So yung alcohol na ginagamit mo sa kamay mo ay antiseptic. Okay? Yung Lysol na pinupunas mo sa floor ay disinfectant. Okay? So ano naman ang cleanser?
Preparing to be disinfected. Pwede din po siya sa sa mga wound pero gamit po yung saline.
Ate, paki-ulit mo kasi hindi ko narinig yung una mong sinabi. Sige.
Yung cleanser po removes dirt, loose soils, and impurities, preparing surface or object to be disinfected. Po.
Okay, so ang narinig ko lang doon na importante ay it should be used before disinfection. Well, it's true because pag sinabi mong cleanser, so ang gawa lang niya ay to physically remove foreign materials. And hindi siya necessarily na mag-kill ng organisms. So, gaya sana ng sugat, bago mo siya lagyan ng iodine na antiseptic, hinuhugasan mo muna siya, hindi ba? So, yung sabon mo na pinanghugas mo dahil may mga soil, kunwari, so that would be your cleanser. So it physically remove your foreign material. Pero hindi niya papatayin yung, meron kasi na wala siyang content na germicide, no? Although, no, means meron mga cleansers tayo, later on makikita natin na pwede silang for gram-positive or gram-negative because of their mechanism of action. But generally, ginagamit sila to physically remove foreign materials. Kaya naman, kailangan sila prior to antiseptic para mas maging effective ang ating antiseptic at disinfectant. Okay? So, maliwanag ba ngayon yung ating mga cleanser, antiseptic, at saka disinfectant?
Yes po, Doc.
Okay. So, I will take a look at first the cleansers, no? So, the cleansers, so they usually contain surfactants. So, or detergents, no? That's why they can remove yung dirt and some contaminating microorganisms, no? Pag sinabi mo kasing surfactant, meron siyang polar head at saka meron siyang lipophilic tail, no? So, pwede siyang magkabit sa mga greases, di ba? It penetrate greases, no? At the same time, pwede rin siyang mag-disrupt ng cell membrane kasi yung head is polar and the tail is lipophilic. So yung tail ang pwedeng mag-disrupt ng cell membrane. No? That's why yung iba pwede siya for gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So do not forget that using the cleansers is a critical step prior to the use of any disinfectant or antiseptics to make them more in contact to the site, no? Kasi mawawala yung mga foreign materials. So meron tayong 3 types, the anionic, the cationic, and the non-ionic. So alam naman na siguro ninyo pag anion, di ba? May positive charge, negative charge, cation, positive charge, no? So non-ion, so wala, no? So yung ating mga anionic na cleansers, they are ang example natin ay yung mga soap, no? So ang ginagawa ng soap, di ba? Ine-emulsify niya and sinosolubilize niya yung ating mga hydrophobic na dirt. Hydrophobic na dirt, di ba? So, yung ating dirt na hydrophobic, kakabit doon yung ating polar head, no? And that's the one that will solubilize and emulsify yung ating mga dirt, no? Pati na rin fats, kaya nila kasi nga merong polar at saka non-polar end, no? And also your protoplasmic membranes. Okay? So, kaya naman, sabi ko kanina, may mga soap that is germicidal, no? Pwede siya for gram-positive and even acid-fast bacteria, di ba? Yung ating, because yun nga, they can solubilize membranes. Okay? Next would be your cationic surfactants, no? So usually, ang ginagawa naman ng mga ito is they combine with the proteins, fats, and phosphate, no? So para mag-take effect, no? So ibig sabihin, pag merong mga blood, may pus, may serum, may tissue debris, which are also proteins and contains fats, hindi sila magiging effective, no? An example of this cleanser is quaternary ammonium compound. So again, no, they readily combine with proteins and fats and phosphates. So they will not be of value kung ang lilinisan mo ay may dugo, no, may pus, may tissue debris. Hindi mo rin sila pwedeng gamitin na gagamit ka ng cotton o kaya ng mga pads. So, hindi sila magiging effective kasi maiiwan yung active ingredient dun sa mga gauze or sa cotton. Okay? So if you are using a cloth as a cleanser, huwag kang gagamit ng mga pads or cottons. So non-ionic naman, an example natin ay twin. Ang mga non-ionic naman, how they work is that since sila ay esters of alcohol, no? So, ginagamit silang grease removal. Siyempre, alam nyo naman na ang alcohol dissolves fats. No? So, pang grease remover sila. Yung mga ating non-ionic cleansers. Okay? Okay, so that would be our cleansers. No? So, ito yung mga cleansers na ginagamit natin sa veterinary medicine. I'm not talking about yung mga cleansers na ginagamit sa mukha ninyo. Okay? So, we go now to the disinfectants. So, meron tayong several classes of disinfectants actually. And these are, okay, unahin natin ito. No? Bago yan. Okay, sorry. So, we have several classes of your chemical disinfectants. No? Meron tayong halogens, aldehydes, phenolics, alcohol, acids, oxidizing agents, quaternary ammonium compounds, and ni Vince. Okay? So, napakadami natin mga disinfectants, ano? So, what is a very good disinfectant, no? From those listing, no? The disinfectant should be broad spectrum, no? So, kaya niya lahat, positive, negative, bacterial spores, prions, no? Fast action, meaning yung contact time ng disinfectant doon sa area para mag-kill ng organism is less. Ganun ang ibig sabihin ng fast action. Meron kasi tayong mga disinfectants that it needs a lot of contact time, no, bago siya magkaroon ng effect. And this is very important kasi if you don't know your disinfectant, na kailangan pala na ibabad mo muna ng 15 minutes, tinanggal mo na agad. So wala din, no? Nilagay mo lang siya ng 1 minute, tinanggal mo agad. So hindi rin nag-take effect yung pag-disinfect mo. Okay? Activity in presence of organic materials. Okay. So a very good disinfectant should be effective kahit na mayroong mga blood, may sputum, Nawawala-wala ang internet dito sa school. Okay, so we continue on. Wala na naman? Ay, wala na naman. So, saan ako na-cut kanina dito? Sa properties. Hello?
Sa halogens po, Dok.
Ha?
Sa halogens po.
So hindi nyo to nakita?
Nakita, Dok.
Itong slide.
Nakita, Dok. Pero nag-next slide na po kayo after niyan, Dok.
Okay. So, ito kasi yung dinidiscuss ko kanina na hindi ko nakita na wala na pala kayo. Anyway, so before we go to the classes of the disinfectants, no, so let's take a look at first ano yung mga properties of an ideal chemical disinfectant. Usually kasi chemical naman yung mga disinfectants natin. So, of course, it should be broad spectrum. So, ibig sabihin, it can affect many, no? Pwede sa virus, pwede sa protozoa, pwede siya sa bacteria, pwede siya sa mga spores, sa fungi. Okay? So, broad spectrum. Fast action means your disinfectant will only need less contact time to take effect, no? Because we have some disinfectants that it will be needing contact time, no, bago siya mag-take effect. So very important that you take a look at ano yung requirement ng iyong disinfectant. Does it need to be left for 30 minutes or only seconds? Oh, so importante yun, no? Kung fast action siya, mas maganda. Activity in the presence of organic and organic materials. So, ito naman is maganda yung disinfectant mo if ma-maintain niya yung kanyang lethal concentration, LC50, sa presence ng organic matters. So, ibig sabihin, kahit na merong blood, may sputum, may feces, effective pa rin siya, papatayin niya pa rin yung mga microorganisms, no? And even with the presence of those. Okay? Number 4 is its compatibility with detergents or soap. Of course, sinabi na natin kanina that you need the cleansers such as the soap first to remove physically yung mga foreign materials, no? So that your disinfectant would have contact mismo dun sa mga microorganisms natin. Okay? Next would be low toxicity. Of course, mas gusto natin yung hindi masyadong matapang, no? So, hindi siya, kung pwede ay it will have a very wide safety margin. So, ayaw mo naman na makahawak ka lang, magkakaroon na ng toxic effect. Low cost, of course, no? That would also be another consideration, especially if you're disinfecting a wide space. Ease of use, or yung madali lang sundan, usually yung dilution niya. And then residual surface activity, that would just mean that even after bumaba na yung concentration niya in the area, magiging effective pa rin siya, mapapatay niya pa rin yung mga microorganisms that will go into that area. Not corrosive. So, ibig sabihin, no, hindi siya caustic or corrosive kagaya ng ating mga acids, no? They are usually corrosive. So, tatandaan ninyo alin ang pwede sa mga stainless steel, sa mga equipments na hindi corrosive, alin yung hindi pwede. So meron kasi mga ganong disinfectants. And it should be non-irritating. Hindi siya masyadong masangsang ang amoy, kagaya ng mga formalin natin is also an disinfectant. So napakasangsang ng amoy niyan. So a very ideal chemical disinfectant would be, it will not be irritating. Right? So those are what you look for in an disinfectant. So let's take a look at the classes. So we have several classes of chemical disinfectants. So the halogens, aldehydes, phenolics, alcohol, acid, oxidizing agents, quaternary ammonium compounds, and your biguanidines. So each of these chemical disinfectants would have their own characteristics. And I want you to take a look at ano yung mga characteristics ng mga chemical disinfectants na ito. And you also have to look for ano yung mga examples and brand names. Okay? So, halogens. So, tingnan natin. Mr. Passion, take a look at the halogens.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. And then Miss Kakayan for the aldehydes. Miss Sekyan for the phenolics. Mr. Esudillo sa alcohols. Miss Domingo sa acid disinfectants ha. Miss Palaway sa oxidizing agents. Mr. Bruno sa quaternary compounds. And the last, for the biguanidines, sino po hindi ko na natawag?
Doc, examples po ba? Or yung parang definition po?
Characteristics. Yan. Okay. Ember, natawag na kita, hindi pa. Biguanidines. Okay? So, I'll give you time para makapag-break din tayo, no? We'll go back 10:45. Tama ba? Pretend. Oo, mabilis lang naman yan eh. Titingnan nyo lang yung characteristics and examples, syempre, of your different disinfectants. Kasi nasabi na natin yung mga idea. Okay? So, you have around 5 minutes to do it. Sige.